Hello everybody and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog Arichcomiclife. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 750 comedians and counting over the last 45 years. My special comedy guest today is Mr. Andrew Ryan. Yes! Hello mate, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Richard. You're the every time I see pictures of Always Be Comedy, I just see your face in the front row in the same seat every week.
We have, I'm on the virtual front row of it, and basically what they do is they take the piss every week, but I have an absolute blast. I'm so glad to be part of that because I've been going there for about 5 years. So they must get sick of me, but
well, you're probably more addicted to comedy than the comedians. You know what I mean? So like,
I do enjoy it, yeah, obviously.
You know, it's obviously it's you know, look, some people. I often find with comedy fans, you know, I have people that have come to see me every year in Edinburgh, and you know, it's really nice. But you're probably the most dedicated comedy fan in the whole of England, or the whole of the UK.
Yeah,
you know, it seems to be a massive part of your life. You know,
wow, that is extraordinary. I just love it. I had an idea because I'd seen so much of it that I thought, well, this might make a good blog. I had a giant spreadsheet of every act I'd ever seen. How boring is that?
Well, I'm not being funny with you, but you know, if that's what you like, do it. And I always say to people, like, you know, I have a friend of mine, and he's a guy I know. He's my age, and he's big into engineering, right? And he just loves buildings. And one of his hobbies is that he travels and just looks at buildings and building sites. And
that's fantastic.
He just watches documentaries on buildings and engineering. And he was telling me that like there was a documentary on St. Pancras train station being built on ITV about 10 years ago. And he said it was just like, it was like Christmas Day for him. He was just loving it, you know. That's whatever makes people happy.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, well, you made me very happy. And today, the interview is all about your comedy career. So we're going to go right back to the start. You're one of my very favourite comedians. Tell me, how did you become a comedian, please?
Probably from this amazing childhood that I had. No, it's a combination of a lot of things, really. I did my first gig when I was 14.
Wow.
And so I stole a load of Billy Connolly material and Bill Bailey material, and I did it to like 20 family members, and I smashed it. I probably did about 3 minutes, and I absolutely smashed it. And then I did it the following week and died of my arse. So, but yeah, like I'm the youngest, you see. So
14 is amazing.
Yeah, like I'm the youngest, and I think, you know, I can see the difference in the personality traits in my siblings, because my sister is obviously the only girl, so she's quite vocal, because obviously she had 3 brothers, so she would have had to speak up a lot, quite sort of in charge of situations and demand stuff, like, you know, because she was the only girl. I was the youngest, so obviously I was always kind of looking for a bit of attention, and therefore for me probably getting attention and was probably about you know, trying to be funny, you know, trying to do something a little bit different. So kind of got the gene to kind of say the odd line here and there. And then when I got to 18 and 19, like I always wanted to be a comedian, but like I grew up in Cork, like where there was nothing, you know, in south of Ireland, like there was like, to be a comedian, most people say to me, like, how do you just start? Like, how do you just become a comedian? It's kind of like, well, you know, Britain has always had this epicenter of comedy. British people going to comedy in the UK is like going to Gaelic football match in Ireland, you know, like it is part of your kind of DNA. And I suppose the way I look at it is like the British Empire in the past, British people love to be entertained. It's kind of like, you know, entertain us, you know, because for such a small country and countries, you know, like, you know, Britain produces phenomenal entertainment, phenomenal TV, drama, music. I mean, you never turn around and go, oh my God, I'm going to see that brilliant band from Finland. It's always you never like, oh, that Dutch indie band are playing. You're like, no one goes to see that. Like it's always British music, British actors, amazing. British film.
It is amazing.
So entertainment, you know, Britain has a lot of things going for itself in terms of entertainment, and comedy obviously falls in that. And that's why when I was growing up as a kid, I used to follow the likes of Tommy Tiernan, Ard Lohannan, Ed Byrne, Dylan Moran, and they were all in England. And I just like, and this was pre-internet age now as well. Like, so, you know, you'd hear that they'd go to Edinburgh Festival and do the clubs in London. And anyway, but you just got to go to England. And that's what I did. I just went to England, and I spent 16 years there. And I didn't do a comedy gig for 5 years because I got a job and I got caught in a sort of working, drinking, having the crack, living away from home. And I'd go to comedy every week. I'd always go down to like the Frog and Bucket. I was living in Manchester. I'd go to the Frog and Bucket, go to the Comedy Store. Not every week, maybe twice a month I would go. I'd go on a Saturday night and I'd watch the pros. And then I realised they had an amateur night on a Monday, and I was about 25, 26 years of age. And I was working in a bank and obviously didn't enjoy that. And I just went there one night and I saw Dan Nightingale, who was the MC, and I just went up to him at the bar and I said, "Hi, my name's Andrew. How do you get on?" And he said, "Ring this number." Now, you couldn't email. You had to ring the number. You ring the number on the Monday. And I rang the number and they put me down. They said, "Turn up 3 weeks later. You get to do the Gong Show." So I turned up, absolutely bricking myself for about 3 weeks, wrote about 4 or 5 minutes of jokes, and lasted about a minute and 20 seconds. No, sorry. That was at the Frog, but 2 years previously, I drunkenly got up at the Gong Show in the Comedy Store, completely ill-prepared. They say to the audience, "Does anyone want to go?" I was like, and I think it went so bad that I wouldn't even, like, that was my first proper gig, but I wouldn't count that as a gig. But I did, like, it wasn't like, it was more like just a drunken ramble, whereas the Frog was kind of like, right, I've actually booked this and I've planned this. Do you know what I mean? So that was the first gig, but this was the first serious attempt, if you kind of know what I mean.
So you didn't go, did you go through any pub gigs where you get 5 minute slots and you take a friend along?
Yeah, so what I used to do was I used to go down to the Frog then every Monday, and I did the first gong and I didn't really do well, and I got back on again 3 weeks later, and you just stand at the back of a bar, and everybody starting out will have this thing. You stand there and you can always tell who the comedian is. They're on their own. You know what I mean? Like, they're always on their own, and they're look nervous. And you go up and go, you just say, "Hi, are you on?" And they go, "Yeah, I'm on." They go, "Hi, I'm Andrew." And what happens is you end up then doing the show with them, and then afterwards you'd have a drink with them, and next thing you know, you're kind of meet that person, and that person introduces you to someone else. And then a couple of weeks later, they say, "Oh, listen, I know a guy who's running a gig here. They're looking for a 5 minute spot. Do you want to come? It's a car share. There's no money in it, but you have to pay petrol." And you're like, "Yeah, okay." Then you go to the next gig, you meet someone else. Next thing you know, it's like any industry. The longer you meet, you talk, and you get offered, and then you're obviously trying to get better as an act and learning. And so what I did was I actually got a job part-time Fridays and Saturday nights at the Frog and Bucket in the bar.
Wow.
And I worked there for about 6 months. And I used to watch the show on a Friday and a Saturday, and I got to know the managers, I got to know the owners, I got to know the acts. So I would go up to the green room and see all the acts like John Bishop and Sarah Milliken and Jason Cook, and like there was so many acts, and next thing you know, you start chatting to them, and then I remember one night I was working there behind the bar, and Toby Haydock was the MC, and 2 acts never turned up for the Gong Show. So they came up and they went, "Oh, Andrew behind the bar does it." And I'd beaten the gong a couple of times. I'd never won it, I don't think. And I went on stage anyway. They called me up from the bar. Next thing you know, you end up working there. I'd work on a Monday as well. I'd watch the show on a Monday as well. So I'd be in there Friday, Saturday, and a Monday. Now I was still having a 9-to-5 job at this point, so was pretty knackered.
Yeah.
And eventually I got to know Toby, and Toby would then see me, and he was like, "Oh, I run a gig on a Sunday new material night at the Comedy Store. Do you want to come down?" Then I get out to the Comedy Store and I do 5, and then the guys at the Comedy Store would see me. Do you see what I mean?
Wow, and then it just
escalates. Next thing you know, you're now you become a little bit of a part of a community. And then I was working behind the bar, and then obviously I was serving the comics alcohol, and then I would get to know the comics. Then I'd finish the bar would close at 12, and I'd be done by 12:30, and we'd go out until 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and we drink. Next thing, yeah, and that's how I did it. And I did all of this with a Nokia 3210. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have become an Instagram comedian or a Facebook comedian.
No.
So it was proper graft. Like it was proper. I was probably the last generation. Of the. I did it for 2 years and held a job down at the same time.
That's amazing.
And I think, it's not about the money. I would have done it for free, but I think it cost me about £6,000 just to do it.
Wow.
Because when I actually went full-time, was earning enough, I was in £6,000 worth of debt from all the expenses. I had to buy a computer. Yeah. I had to travel to London for 5-minute spots and get a train and then stay in a hotel. So it would cost me £200 to do a gig and I would earn no money.
So what year was this that you started?
2009, 2008, 2009, 2010. Yeah. So I was just learning. I was just learning.
Yeah, but it's all experience. All experience. My home city is Carlisle, and a very, very good friend of mine and his wife live in Manchester. And I used to go to Manchester all the time and see all the big comedy acts over the years. And about 2 years ago, for the first time ever, I went to the Frog and Bucket. I always wanted to go. We'd normally go at the Comedy Store, but we went to the Frog and Bucket, and I just thought, this is a fantastic venue. And it's such a good room to play, The audience were fantastic. So that is superb.
Yeah, it is. You know what? Like when I lived in Manchester, I thought in Manchester as well as you got to be able to play big rooms quite quick.
Yeah. And
the gigs were proper. Like when I went down to London, there was a lot of, you turn up and there's 15 in the audience and 5 of them are comedians. And whereas in Manchester, I could go out on a new material night in the Comedy Store that Toby Haydock used to run because he saw me at the Frog. And I would go out there and it was £2 a ticket. There'd be 350 people in the room.
Yeah. That must have been daunting.
Horrendous. Sometimes I look back at it and I think to myself, how did I have the mental capacity to process all of this? Like you're literally walking out. Like I used to be so, like my nerves were pretty bad. Like they were very, very bad, and I focused on myself that I have to accept nerves. I have to accept that this is the process because the nerves. So I remember if I was doing a gig and I was on stage at 9 o'clock, from 3 o'clock onwards, I probably wouldn't eat.
What?
And then I'd finish the show, say at 9:30, and then I'd have a pizza, and I would just be on this massive. For 6 hours beforehand, you're in a zone, and then there's a release.
There's an adrenaline that releases when, definitely, yeah. It's weird because
and I learned,
I was just going to say, I've told nearly every comedian I've talked to this story, but I've actually had a go myself at a gong show, and it was just terrifying. I walked out and. I said, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, but I can't see the resemblance myself. And of course, I'm his double. And one old bloke at the back just went, sod off, and got me off. And the guy went, have another go. And I had another go. And the same thing happened. And I said, I'll support them forevermore, but I'd never say never again. But so that is a fascinating way to get into it, like you did. But having the pub atmosphere, you got to know everybody as well. That's wonderful.
It was a real community, it was a real community. I'm still friends with people who I met doing open spots with who don't do comedy anymore.
Yeah,
they got into it. They did it for about a year, and then they drop out, because they have girlfriends and they become wives and they get older and they realize, this isn't really going anywhere. Whereas where I was a bit like, well, I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to see how far this can go. And eventually, I just was like, I just worked at it. And I made so many mistakes as well,
But
even
I think you have to do that to become a better comedian. It's all experience.
Yeah, and it's all experience. I would say I've only really felt not comfortable, because I don't think you ever feel comfortable as a comedian, but I felt comfortable walking on stage. Really, not I would still be nervous, but I would be comfortable enough to know that I can handle the nerves probably only the last 4 or 5 years, So like I would say like the last and then I look back at certain things I've done or routines I've done, and I go, God, what? I just chased the joke and I never developed the story. And now I'm much more streetwise that it's kind of like whenever I'm writing something now, I don't chase the laugh. I chase to how do I develop it, and I know the more I develop it, the more jokes I can get in it. So I actually probably in the last 2 years, I would say I've developed into a comedian that I actually like. I like what I'm doing, whereas before a lot of the time it was I just want to get rebooked.
Yeah.
So I would, because I have bills to pay, and I would do comedy for free. It's not a money thing, but when you have bills to pay and you live in a different country and you don't have like family support and stuff like that, there becomes this thing where it's kind of like I need to fill my diary. I need to fill it out, and I became a little bit more focused on filling my diary and being busy than actually developing my act. And I think now, then when I got to a stage where I was very lucky that diary was filling anyway, and I kind of suppose people would just book me anyway, and obviously I would try and do a good job, but I didn't put so much pressure on the diary being filled. So then I started to say I need to go back to my act, and I went back to my act, and then obviously I developed the act more, and then as I developed the act more, the diary was still filling anyway because the act was getting better, because the act was getting so I actually ended up going through my process was I want to be a comedian. I did everything to become a comedian, and then I went a bit stale, which was I just want to stay a comedian. And then once I got through the staying part, I then developed as a comedian. Do you see my point?
Exactly. So, yeah. I was just going to say, I first saw you do a 10-minute slot at We Love Comedy in Balham in 2013, and I could tell then what I love about your act, genuinely, is that you're one of the most naturally funny people when you're on stage. You make it look so easy. And this is what, even if you're going through nerves and all the rest of it, you do make it look so easy. And you're very endearing, you're very warm on stage. And I think that's a massive quality to have, because obviously comedians, number one thing they've got to be is funny. But if you're endearing or original or warm when you walk out on stage, you're halfway there with an audience.
Likability.
Very much so. And you've got it in spades, mate. You really have.
But you know what? I think the Irish accent really helps.
Yeah.
Like someone said to me once at a gig, they said, "Are you going to be Irish tonight?" And I was like, "I'm going to be extra Irish tonight, my friend."
No, I've always thought that, and I've told you that before. What do you like to talk about on stage?
Well, it's developed now. Now, like, for example, I'll give you an example, like what I'm writing about now. So, like, now I'm more self-critical than I've ever been, and more opinionated. Right. I used to be interested in opinions on stage, but my opinions would be quite balanced, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm not a political comedian or that, but at the moment now, like, I'm doing this thing where I'm writing about the biggest problem in society at the moment is the general public. You know what I mean? Right. So, like, I have this bit, like, where I'm working on about what the things we can do to get rid of the general public, you know. Yeah. And then I'm also working on, I recently moved house. Because of COVID, you know, everything changed. So I bought a house and I moved into it, but I bought a house in Belfast, and I'm from Cork, which is a 4-hour drive. But I actually bought the house in East Belfast. Now, if people know Belfast, they'll know that East Belfast is predominantly the British area of Belfast. And as you can tell, I'm as Irish as fucking anything. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'm writing material about living in East Belfast and buying a house and all this kind of stuff. And it's about, like, just so I you know, this isn't like, I'm not changing the game with material here.
No.
I'm just talking about my life, and, you know, more sort of like, you know, like with COVID and stuff like that. I've been quite brutal with COVID in terms of material about that, and the material about how so many people now feel that they're all experts in viral diseases and all this. And I'm just kind of like getting, the older I'm getting, I think the not more grumpier I'm getting, but the more I'm kind of like going, well, look, you know, I'm kind of like being a bit more world sort of view on stuff, and kind of coming at things from a much different angle than I used to.
Yeah,
and I think,
yeah.
and I think that's quite liberating, because I've got to a point now where I'm very comfortable in my skin in comedy, and now I'm kind of like taking, I'm just going off on different tangents and developing things more. It's like I'd be a big fan of Frankie Boyle now, but if you watch him on telly, you kind of think he's not the most endearing or likable character, but his jokes are so on
sharp,
point. And I think that's the thing. Like, if you're an unlikable character, you have to have the jokes to kind of carry that. And I think I'm trying to get a bit of a balance of likable, but also a little bit sort of like, oh Jesus, I can't believe you said that, you know. So, you know, not that I'm deliberately trying to do it. I'm not trying to deliberately say it, because I don't just want to be the, oh yeah, he just did a really nice routine about going to Tesco's, you know what I mean? Whereas I want to talk a bit more about like why Tesco's exists, you know, that kind of stuff, like, you know. So I'm kind of like going through. I mean, the pandemic really messed me up. I thought I was at a really good turning point, like really kind of, I was getting into fifth gear, you know.
Right.
And I spent years going through, so many years going through the gears, and starting out in first and then getting to third gear, and then being stuck on third gear for a while, and then getting into fourth and then having to go back to third because I made a few mistakes at fourth gear.
Yeah. And
now I felt I was really got asked to do some supports with John Bishop in the arenas. And there were like 7,000 people a night. And then I was invited over to Sydney Comedy Festival in Australia. And then I could really see the levels had moved, the levels had moved, and then obviously all that taken away. But you know what? A rest is as good as a change. And I got another job. I'm actually working in B&Q. That's what I'm doing, you know. So like I've gone from working 20 nights a week doing stand-up to, you know, slacking shelves in B&Q. So and I really like it, and I've written loads of material about B&Q, you know. So like, that's
brilliant. So when you come back,
I like you know, I like working. I like to work, you know, and I'm doing a lot of Zoom, like, you know, just doing a lot of Zoom, doing writing, doing voice work.
Yeah, it's great. That's brilliant.
You know, it's great.
To date, what's been your best and worst gig?
Okay, the worst gig is it's bad.
Go on.
It's bad. Okay, so this happened. This actually happened, right? Okay. I got asked, would I come and do a gig in Warrington?
Right.
And it was for a birthday party. Yeah. And I was a bit suspicious doing a gig at a birthday party, you know. I was like, oh, I don't really think that would suit comedy. And they were like, oh, no, don't worry. It's a proper setup. Like, you know, the seating, theatre style, you know, it's fine. Like, there's an MC and everything and all this. Now, I was a bit like, I wasn't working. I was offered a bit of money. I was like, yeah, whatever. So I turn up down at this gig, right? And I walk in, and it's all I hear is chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, like this dance music, right? And I'm thinking, oh, this must be another venue next to the venue I'm in. And I turn up, and there was standing a topless male waiter.
Oh, mate!
Right, and this guy's got a 6-pack, and he's got a tray of champagne. Now there must have been 100 people there, 120 people there, and it was in a nightclub. And I'm thinking, I'm walking in, going, "Where's the comedy room?" So there's this chocolate fountain. There's all these, like, the only way is Cheshire type of white teeth everywhere. Like, I mean, I was just like, what is this? So anyway, the guy that books me, he's there. He was a nice fella. And he says, oh, come with me, I'll put you in the room. And I was like, oh, great, this isn't my event. Like, this isn't my event, right? So I go into another room, and he's like, oh, don't worry, we've got a special room at the back. There's going to be coming in for the stand-up and all that. And I was like, what's going on out there? Like, and he was like, oh, that's the birthday party, but the comedy's for different, like. And I was just like, oh my God, right. I automatically am thinking, this isn't right. I need to leave. So they bring me into this room, and it's a nightclub, but there's no seating, but there's a stage next to the DJ box. And next thing you know, he says, right, we're going to do it here. And I'm like, you what? Like, what is this? Like this? And I, do you know what? I genuinely thought I was being pranked. I was expecting someone to come out with a camera and go, gotcha. And I was like, what is this? So next thing, about 8 people arrive into this room who are all from the party next door. Now in the background, I hear boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, and I'm standing there going, "What the fuck is this?" Like, so the MC goes on, and everyone's just 8 people standing in front, like no seating, nothing. Like it's like a public auction. And I'm just like going, "What is this?" So he goes on and he goes, "We've got a great comedian for you." And I'm like, "You can't bring me on. This is like standing in the street, you know." Anyway, I walked on anyway thinking I was booked for half an hour. I think if I get to 10, that's good, you know. So I'm on about maybe a minute and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, this is insane. I can't believe what have you seen the top?" I didn't know what to do. Anyway, this guy was in one of the 8. This guy just walks up to me and stands on the stage and he just puts his head in front of me as if to say, like, "Do you want to fight?"
Oh my God.
And I just go, "What is this?" And I told one joke and I left, right? And I was shaking. Like I thought this was a piss. I thought it was a bit of a wind up, you know?
Yeah.
And I said to the guy, I said, you need to pay me. And he's like, "Oh, I'll get you the money. I said, "You need to pay me for this. This was a disgrace. Like, you know, I'm not happy with this." 10 minutes passed, no money. 15 minutes passed, no money. Anyway, so I'm standing in the bar. I go back out to the bar. Now, bear in mind, the majority of people in the venue didn't see the act because there was only about 8 people there. So there's about 100 odd people there. So I'm fine in the bar. So I'm standing at the bar anyway. The birthday party was for a girl, maybe in her 30s, right? And so I'm standing there and there's no money coming. So I'm thinking, you know what? I've been shafted here. I've driven here. I'm going to put this down as an experience. This is the side of comedy when you're starting out that people don't know about. I've been caught. Suck it up. No one's going to know. I'll keep it to myself. Everything's going to be fine. Next thing, they start singing happy birthday to this girl, right? And her boyfriend plays a video on a screen in the back. There's a big setup, right? Anyway, he goes down on one knee and he proposes. Now, everyone's screaming and I'm thinking, I'm not having this at all. And I see the fire alarm. There's a red small fire alarm, right? Right? And next to the fire alarm, there's two broomsticks. And I'm thinking, if I break the fire alarm, that's going to ruin their engagement. And I can see an exit. And none of them know who I am. So if I go up, break the fire alarm, the alarm goes off, and then I just walk out, get in my car, I'm gone. No, all right, and I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, right, so I pick up the broom, right, and I think I'll smash it with the broom, and I'll just go, right? This is pretty bad. So I walk in behind the bar. Well, like there's a side entrance, you know, where the staff come in and out, like the latch goes up, you know, and it goes down. Like, so I'm kind of like just standing in there and I'm thinking, right, I'm going to do this. Can I get arrested in my head? Would I be arrested? What if they beat me up? You know, I'm thinking all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, the guy comes up to me anyway and hands me my money. I get my money. And I'd say there was about a 30-second gap from when I was going to do it to when I was doing it. And luckily he gave me my money and I walked out. Wow. And if I did not get my money, I'd have smashed. Like, I know you want me to say I smashed the fire alarm, but I didn't. But like, I was 30 seconds away from smashing that fire alarm. And there's a part of me that thinks to myself, it wasn't worth the 150 quid. I should have smashed the fire alarm. Because can you imagine the second that woman was proposed to, her fire alarm goes off, and that would be that would have ruined everything. You've ruined my night. You've tricked me. A guy has threatened me on stage for doing nothing. I've been lied to, and I thought there's topless male waiters walking. There was a chocolate flamingo. I was like, you don't book a comedian when there's a chocolate flamingo in the audience. Like, you know, that was the worst night of my life, and that happened probably about 8 or 10 years ago. That happened, and I'll never forget it. You know, I'll never forget it.
That's extraordinary.
It was horrible. Like, I still think about it. You know, I still think about it.
What a great but sad story.
Oh, but it was just like I should have broken that fire alarm. I really wish I broke that fire alarm, you know. But
you must have good memories of gigs though. You must have
some of
better ones.
To be honest with you, I don't think I could have. I don't think if I sat down and spoke to somebody and told them all the good things that have happened, I don't think they'd believe me. Do you know? Because I've just had like some of the most amazing experience. Like I've done the Apollo.
Yeah.
I did the Edinburgh Gala a couple of times, 3,000 people. I've been on bills with Eddie Izzard, Kevin Bridges, John Bishop, Michael McIntyre. The cream of comedy, and like your name is up there as well. And kind of like, it's just, I think one night I'll never forget, I did 3,000 people in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Playhouse, and Adam Hills was hosting it.
Wow.
And you know, Tom Allen, Rob Beckett, Adam Hills, you know,
just on
Angela
and on
Barnes, just on and on and on, Kevin Bridges, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I went out and I came off the stage afterwards. I just remember Adam Hills saying to me, "You were the best actor the whole night."
There you go.
And I was just like, came off like, and I remember I sold out a load of shows in Edinburgh after that night. And I just did a routine, a very simple routine about my nephew's christening. It was an old routine I had. I don't have it anymore. And the place just erupted, you know. But when I got the laughs, I just remember all the years of experience of that gig, that bad gig that I did, the gigs that never went well. Like you learn to control and you go, accept the laugh and relax, because the more relaxed you are, the more relaxed the audience are. And then the more natural you are, the more the audience really engage. And those nights will stay with me. Like, you know, those nights of just coming off stage going, you know, when I was like, when I was like, you know, 24, like would never have thought that at that age of my life that I wanted to be a comedian. And then there I am, like walking out with all these people, you know.
That's
like incredible. It was just brilliant.
That is such a great story. It's you know, it's so good to see. Let's move on to Edinburgh. I've seen you at the Edinburgh Fringe many times. What was your first Edinburgh festival like?
So I did my first Edinburgh was with Joe Lycett.
Right.
We did a show half an hour each on the Free Fringe.
Right.
And we did 25 shows, and we were very lucky. Full run. And Joe had just won the BBC Comedy Award, so there was a bit of heat on Joe. And then so every day we had about 50 people in the room. It was full, you know. We queued around the corner. I mean, it was mental. Like, it was mental. And because Joe was the draw, and I used to go on first, so that they wouldn't leave after Joe would go on first, you know what I mean? So I would always go on first, so they'd have to stay because they wanted to watch Joe. So but that was really good. That was a great learning curve, just doing a half an hour. Just, you know, I probably never did more than 20 minutes before. And it was on the Free. So you go up there, you know, and you just kind of keep yourself to yourself and just do it, you know.
What year was that, your first
2012, I think.
Right.
Yeah, 2012. Then I didn't do a solo I did a solo the following year, and I probably shouldn't have. Because I loved it so much, I just wanted to go back. But, you know, this is the thing, like, you know, comedy isn't just about having an hour. You know what I mean? It's about having an hour and being comfortable with yourself for an hour. And all the pressure that comes, you know, because you're going up to Edinburgh and you're thinking, right, I need to go up there with the best show. And whereas me, I always thought, like, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to enjoy myself, and I'm also going to have, and hopefully people will come and see me. And I noticed after a few years of doing it that I was starting to get really consistent crowds. You know, I'd go up from 50 seats and then I was doing 90 seats. And then like the last time I was there now, I was doing 85, 90 seats every day nearly. And you realize, oh, this is, and then I would say 30, 40% of the audience had seen me before. So you're on this, it's the next thing you're thinking the following year, then you go back up again. You might get to 110 seats, 150 seats. And then, you know, you have people like Jason Byrne and Andrew Maxwell who are doing 400 a night, but they've been doing that for 25 years. And that's how you grow, unless you're, but then, you know, if you've got some people that are on telly every day of the week, what they do then is, you know, they'll go up and, you know, people might see them. But I like to have the how would you say, the years behind me, do you know what I mean? So that people go like, you know, because there's people that will go and watch people because they've seen them on telly, and then they go, how was the show? It goes, oh yeah, it was really good. And you go, you somebody that's working in the clubs, and then they go, how was it? It was just great. But every year, because they're more match fit, you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
So like from the live, because I think live comedy, I mean, I've done quite a bit of telly, but like I remember like doing a panel show in Ireland, and I did the warm up before the show. And I had more fun doing the warm-up than I did doing the show.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because it was live comedy, whereas when I was on the show, it was stop, it was start, it was scripted, non-scripted.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And like, you know, you go on telly because you want to be on telly and you want to sell tickets and you want to be funny on telly and you want to do it and you want to build your profile but ultimately, like, you know, I want to have enough people to come and see me.
Exactly.
Live.
Well, I go to I'm very lucky to go to the Edinburgh Fringe every year. It's my holiday. And I go for a week and I see about 50 shows.
Wow.
And I need a holiday when I come back because I'm exhausted. But it's just the best experience. The first year I went was 2005 and I've been going there ever since. I first saw your solo show, Ruined, in 2016, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Can you describe the writing process for an hour-long show? How do you get your ideas? How do you approach the writing?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, like I tell you what I'm doing now. So I did a big solo show in Cork last year in a big theatre, and I was booked to come back again. Obviously, that was all cancelled. Yeah. So what I've done is I'm writing a new show now called Stop, You're Annoying Me Now, and.
I hope that's
stop,
not the case here.
You're annoying me now. So that's the show.
Great time.
And so what I do is basically I try not to have shows that are topical in terms of the time, because I don't want to if people are topical comedians, it must be great having COVID in America and what's happening all over the world, but you can't perform it. Do you know what I mean? And like when we come out of COVID, I mean, I'm not going to lie, but I'm sick of it. And if I keep hearing jokes about it, it's just going to be doom. It's like people are just people.
Hear it, are they?
Yeah, I just think it's like when Donald Trump became president. It's like, right, mate, I'm sick of it. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So I think like people will be like, oh, what's your COVID materials? Like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm sick of it. So I'm gonna talk about stuff around COVID, if you know what I mean, like not working and being a bit lazy and getting another job because of COVID. But I won't talk about COVID directly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like for me, like at the moment now, I'm writing a show. So I had my mum died last year, 16 months ago. Oh. So I've been kind of like writing a bit about that and kind of like the transformation of from losing your kind of like security blanket to being like out your own. So like things like buying a house and becoming a little bit more of an adult and stuff that's happened in the world. And how I write is very straightforward. So what I do is people think like, you never see a documentary on a comedian physically writing a joke. It never, because it happens in a car. It happens like, there was one little bit, like there was a guy I was working in B&Q and he said to me, oh, where will I get a combi drill? And I was like, oh, you just get it down there in the drill aisle. It's aisle number 8. And he's like, yeah, but where is that? And I'm like, it's between 7 and 9. Okay. Like, so like just stuff like that, and I think, oh, that's a funny bit, that's a funny, but that's a funny bit because that's the general public, and the general public pissed me off. So that goes into that section. So how I kind of write at the moment is how I physically write is what I do is I have an office here, and I'll normally like have a bit of an idea, and so at the moment I'm working on a lot of living in East Belfast. But how can I make living in East Belfast appeal to people in London? So what I do is I talk about the process of buying a house, and I talk about I bought this house without actually viewing it. I bought it on the internet, because of the lockdown. I thought, you know what, I like taking risks, and luckily it's kind of worked out. So then people said to me, oh, there's a pandemic, you need to stay in your house and stay safe. I was like, you know what I'm going to do to stay safe? I'm going to move to Loyalist East Belfast. That's what I'm going to do, right? So what I do is I come into my office and I have like a board and I have an idea that I write, and I write the idea down. So I go living in Belfast, and then I stand up and I get my TV remote and I perform a gig and I ad-lib the gig.
Wow.
So I'll stand. So this is how I write. Like, so I'll be in my house and I'll have this idea and I have a pen next to the routine, and I just stand up and I'll just be like this going, hey, it's really good to be here in London. And then I'll go, so I moved to Belfast recently. That's right, Belfast. You all know Belfast, and I love Belfast. And I'm not going to lie, but I feel safer in Belfast than I ever did living in London. When I say safer in Belfast, just during daylight hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, because there's a lot of there's a lot of late night writing. So then I'm thinking, oh, that's a nice line. So I'll just write down daylight hours.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'll do a load of that, and then I'll say to myself, right, who am I attacking? Why am I attacking them? Is it justifiable? Is this just my opinion? I don't want to be picking on people of Belfast because I like Belfast and I like the people of Belfast. So what I'm doing is I'm saying people have this perception, and I turn around and goes, I feel more safer in Belfast than I do in London. So now I'm giving it a different interpretation.
Yes, I see. Yeah.
And then I go, but I'm an Irish person living in the British side of Belfast. That's a bit bit weird. And I talk about, like, so day one of moving into the housing estate, and I got this great. I came up with this joke, and I thought this would be good. People say to me, Andrew, you must be careful, with your accent living in East Belfast. And I go, what do you think I was going to do day one? Turn up with the Irish flag and just like wave it around the housing estate, shouting at my neighbours, going, there's going to be a few fucking changes around here, I can tell you. Do you know what I mean? So then, like, that's how I write it. And then I'm in my room just doing that, and then I'll write that down.
That's
you see
amazing.
What I mean? And then I go, right, so that's me moving, but then why did I move?
Yeah.
What made me move? And then I go, so then I think myself, like, what do I love about owning a house? And what do I don't like about owning it? What I don't like about owning this house is that my mother never got to see me be a homeowner.
Yeah.
Because of jokes. So then I tell you, like, when everyone buys a house, their mum or dad will give you a little gift or something. I didn't get my mom to come and view the house. So then I'll talk about that, like, and then I'll talk about, that it makes me feel sad. And then I'll talk about, people say to me, you should rent a room out. And I'm like, I can't have anyone on my carpet. I can't have anyone on my carpet, So then every person, and I'll give opinions on a state agent, and then that's like a nice little 10-minute block.
That's
but that's
brilliant.
Telling you the journey, and then the next bit, then it's like, that's a nice sort of thing. And then the next bit I'm kind of working on at the moment is like working on a bit then about like people and why I want to live alone, and like my kind of like how I kind of just I'm actually looking for my notes here because I actually have a bit of a writing pad going at the moment. Like dealing with carpenters, and so I'm just dealing with stuff that's happening to me, and then I just kind of stuff like that, like, and then relationships, and also like just kind of getting to the point where like I crashed my car recently, so I'm writing about that. And I just skidded on ice on my estate, and I just hit a pole, and I ended up writing the car off, and then all these bad things kind of happened at once, and then I'm just talking about like self-belief and all this kind of buying a house thing, and you're getting that. Becoming a matter, and then it just kind of like evolves from that. Like, it's very hard to sit here and go, I'm writing jokes about A, B, C, D, E, and F, and G. Like, I come into the room, and sometimes I'll do about 40 minutes a day, an hour a day, and I mightn't even get much out of it, like,
It's fascinating, though, that you're rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing. Like,
moving around, I don't. Some people will sit there, they'll physically I can't. I don't do that. I just sit here, and I'd be like going. I'd be like going. I'll let it rub in my hair, and I'd be like going. So. I'd be like going, oh God, this Brexit thing's absolutely mental, and I'll just talk out loud. I'm like, this Brexit thing is absolutely mental, and like. The thing about it is that, like, I remember I saw a guy, and this is true, and I wrote a bit about this guy, and he was like, oh, stay 2 meters away from me, you need to protect myself. And I'm like, Jesus, man, you're very conscious about your health, but you're not conscious about the cigarette that you're smoking, though, you know what I mean? He's not like, doesn't kind of work, So, and after about half an hour of that, I might get a line, I might get 2 lines, from it, and that's the end of it. I stop then, Wow.
I've seen you also host many a comedy night, and the story that comes to mind was when I saw you do Andrew Ryan's Pick of the Fringe.
All right,
Of the Fringe. And I was one of the first in, and my friends were late, and they came in just as you went on stage, and you walked on and you said, has anybody seen my solo show? And I yelled out, yes, I have. And you turned to me and you grinned and you said, can you tell me what the first line is? Because I don't think you believed I actually got that. It was a wonderful banter. Do you prefer comparing to doing a solo show?
I prefer solo show, yeah.
Yeah. You prefer writing and doing a solo show.
I would compare probably 40% of the time. And the reason for that is I like throwing in new material when I compare.
Yeah.
And also I like comparing as well, but I don't want to be Andrew Ryan, he's a compare.
Yeah.
Do you know? I want to be like, Andrew Ryan, he's an act and does a show. He does a bit of comparing as well. But the problem is that I've had some of my best nights on stage comparing as well, but I also go like, well, I can't bottle that and do anything else with it, like so I'm kind of like a bit like, it is really handy to compare if you are trying out bits and bobs, or you actually have a story that you know is working but you've added bits onto it,
right? And
also as well as like if you go to club comedy like you do, like Richard, is like, that a compare is so important.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the most important parts of the show, because if the compare isn't good, you're losing. The comedy night's losing if the compare isn't good. And the acts have to come back and draw level and equalise and get it up. And then when the compare comes out again and the audience don't like the compare, it really affects everything. So, like, there's so many good compares out there. And, like, I like doing, I'm very lucky. Like, comparing the comedy stories, I love comparing the comedy stuff.
You do that many a time.
But I wouldn't like to compare the stand.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And the reason for that is because I like doing sets at the stand, because it's such a savvy crowd and I like them to hear my material. Whereas I'll go to the Birmingham Glee and I'll compare on the Friday, but I'll do a set on a Saturday because there's a problem with the bill or somebody has to leave.
Yeah.
So I'm always that kind of, you book me, you can kind of get a set and you can get a compare. So I think when people book me to go, Andrew Ryan, he can do both. So he's good to have there just in case something kind of goes wrong. So, but I think I would say to a lot of comedians, if you're starting out, is get comparing, be able to have that skill under your belt. You don't, like, I remember seeing Ramesh compare,
Yeah.
And Ramesh was a very good compare.
Yeah.
So, but it's always, I think if you can have that as well, especially on the circuit in the clubs, it is a great asset to have too. It's like being a qualified plumber and you're a qualified electrician as well.
Yeah. You've also appeared many times on Irish and UK TV, and I've seen you as a guest, for example, on Russell Howard's Good News. Is there any differences between TV comedy and live stand-up?
Well, with TV comedy, I often think I probably made a few mistakes when I was doing TV comedy. I was thinking more of the TV rather than just doing the comedy, and more worrying about how I came across rather than, and sometimes I'd spend more time thinking about what shirt I was going to wear, whereas now I don't care. I just kind of I do regret sometimes, like the Russell Howard's Good News was my first ever TV show, and the actual record went really well, but when I look back on it, I go, Jesus, I can't believe I even did that or said that. Or every comedian will tell you the same though. So like, you look back and you go, did I say that?
I thought,
and you're like, going, how did that get a laugh? Jesus, that was horrendous bit of material. But the thing is, it's like anything, if I did Russell Howard's Good News now, I wouldn't think twice about it. Yeah. But I'd be nervous and I'd be delighted to do it. But I would also be so much more relaxed and experienced because of doing stage time. Every job you get more, not that you're relaxed, but you're comfortable. You're comfortable in yourself. Yeah. But at the time, I think doing Russell Howard's Good News probably came about a year too soon for me.
Right.
But if I turned it down, I never get it again. They'll be looking for the next person.
Yeah.
So comic.
Yeah. Sorry. Carry on.
I think one thing I kind of regret is I got a lot of TV in my first sort of 5 years.
Right.
And I kind of wish I held off a bit and asked, could I do it a year later?
Yeah.
And I think I did okay in a lot of them. And I think when people see you and they go, oh, he did okay. But I think you do realize that people get better.
Yeah. Like
they get better. So why couldn't you come and see me 2 years later? But they've already made up your opinion on you from that thing that happened a few years ago.
I found, TV is quite restricted as well. It's so much better seeing live acts because they can rightly say what they like,
Yeah, but also TV's great. I love Mock the Week. I don't know what I'd be. I think I'd like to do Mock the Week, but and I had to see how I'd fare. And I don't know if I'm the type of comedian, because I don't do a lot of short stuff, if you know what I mean. So I think you know what? I think I would love to host a panel show.
I think
that's where I think being the host of a panel show for me is better than being a guest, because I can ad-lib, I can MC, and I'm comfortable around comedians, and I know when to give a comedian space, and I know when to let the comedian breathe and do what they want to do. And I'd like to think I'd be generous at it, because obviously the host is important, but it's also about the guests making sure that they're getting what they want out of it and making the guests comfortable. And I think because of my MCing, I think hosting a panel show would really suit me. But then again, there's only 5 panel shows, and they've all had the same host for the last 10, 15 years. So to break into that market, it's hard. So unless one of them accidentally dies.
Well, there you are.
Not naming any names, Darren, but I'm just saying, you know what I
mean? I've been to many a TV recording myself, and one of the best ones I ever went to, we went to Have I Got News for You, and it was the first time Bruce Forsyth was on it.
Oh, right.
And it was his comeback. It was just incredible. And he was trying to read an autocue, and there's a line in that where he's going, and I am laughing. You can hear me as clear as day on the video. And he turns around and he goes, please, this is satire. And I was on the floor. And I thought, well, I'll have my laughs on video forevermore. And
that's great.
It was
that's
fantastic.
Really good.
And talking about Russell Howard, I first saw him in Edinburgh, and I committed the cardinal sin, because it was before he was famous, and he was trying. And I thought, this is a real find, and I was really enjoying it. Just as he walked on, my mobile phone went off, and it was a brand new mobile phone, and I didn't know how to switch it off, so I became part of his show.
But you know what? Sometimes, comics don't mind stuff like that.
No, thankfully he didn't. My next question was, what is your ambition as a comedian? So you would like to host a chat show?
I would like to host a panel show, yeah. I mean, I've never really been a tech guy. I see a lot of people. I've joined Instagram and TikTok, and that's really all I do. I don't do Twitter, and I have a Facebook page where I post a few videos and stuff. But there's some people out there that, they're really, really good at Instagram, and it really suits them. And for me, I'm kind of like, I'm not reluctant about it, but I say to myself, look, this is where the game is now, and I've gone for it, and so I am using this lockdown to kind of change my mentality about how I push myself. For me, my ambition, well, first of all, I'm already living it. So before COVID, I don't care what anyone says, whether you've been on, the fact that my job as a comedian, I've kind of hit a level that I'd be forever grateful for. But when you get into something, it's like playing football and you play in the championship, you want to play in the premiership. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of thing. So like for me, it's a bit like it's really, really becoming a better writer, and also growing the audience that I have for people to come and see me. I just want to tour and do bits of TV here and there. I have a documentary pilot that's been commissioned in Ireland that is on hold. We got the pilot commissioned with a friend of mine, Shane Casey, who's an actor in the show The Young Offenders. And we had that last September. It was put on hold, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if we'll get the chance to do it because of COVID. But the fact that I got to the stage where that was accepted, and I know that there is doors there that are open. It's just a matter of me. Well, I'd like to go into hosting like a panel show, and I'd also like to go into doing some documentary stuff, as well as building up my tour and building up an audience like that. And also, as much as people say that, I also just want to still do comedy clubs. Like I know you have some comedians and they're amazing. They pop into clubs when they do their new material. For me, I would still like to be doing Up the Creek. And I still want to do a 99 Club, and I still want to do the Comedy Store, because
I so miss that.
It's just the best. It's just the best. Like people go, and people don't realize it's like, when you go to big shows, you do big theatre stuff like that, to have 300 people like on you, and that anything goes. It's spine tingling. It's great fun.
Watching as well. It's to me, it's the perfect night out, because you can go, you can have a few beers, you can watch the show, you can stay
Yeah.
behind afterwards. It's just wonderful, and I really miss that on a Saturday night. But it will be back, I'm sure. We're all living in strange times. It's a horrible time at the moment, awful. Have you done any online gigs? How do you find them different to stand up?
I've done about, I'd say I've done about 20,
Right.
25. I've got one this Thursday. I've done
Right.
quite a good few, actually, and I have really enjoyed them, actually. I have really enjoyed them, and I didn't think I would.
You don't
know?
mind talking to a screen?
No, I don't mind it. Like, I mean, if the audience are bought into the concept, then it's much easier.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think people, when they come on to watch a Zoom comedy, I think their expectations are quite low.
Yeah.
And I think very quickly they realize, well, actually, this is really good. And I think the comedians, the first one I did, I was like, oh, this was actually quite good, because, they have a little front row and you can actually hear a bit of laughter. And people don't realize, but just that bit of laughter really galvanizes you,
I was just gonna say the first 3 or 4 I did, there was no audio. You could hear the comedians, but there was no audio. So I was laughing very loudly to 4 walls, and nobody could hear me. And I thought, I thought I'm going to get taken away here. But thankfully they certainly the Always Be Comedies one I go to, they switch the audio on. But I think they all are doing that now, because, as you say, to hear the laughter is great. Obviously,
and I think, like, look, comedy is great at adapting, and as soon as lockdowns happened, people adapted and people bought into it, and it's grown. And obviously, we got a few outdoor gigs last summer and stuff like that, and I'm sure that will return around May or June as people are vaccinated. There is light at the end of the tunnel now. It's just a bloody long tunnel, So, like,
please come back, live comedy. You can't be. This is wonderful, the online thing. But I mean, if I didn't have it, I wouldn't know how I'd get through it. But live comedy, you just can't beat it, I don't think. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Bill Burr is my favourite one at the moment.
Wow.
I also really like, really love Andy Askins.
Yeah, he's superb.
Yeah, he's just the most underrated. Oh, I just, whenever I gig with him, and I gig with him quite a bit, and I see him a lot, and I consider him a good friend of mine, I always ask him to do certain bits of material because I just love it. Like, Andy Askins is great. I really like Chris Kent.
Yeah.
I really like Chris Kent.
You've toured with Chris.
We did a tour, I mean, Chris would be.
I remember at the Edinburgh Fringe, you were saying about your workman-like thing. I remember coming out of the show, and at the bottom of the stairs, it was at the assembly on the Mound, you were flyering. And I thought, well, there is a comedian who is flyering for another, but it was for both of you. It was for
I spoke to you. I remember I was talking to you, didn't I? I went up to you. I stopped you. Yeah. Because finish the show. Yeah. Back on the street, working again. Keep working. Keep working.
Chris Kent was on the Best of the Fest afterwards. That's what I was going to, and so you were there, and I just thought that's wonderful that you were keeping the work ethic going, if you like.
Like, I think I like to work, I do like working, and in Edinburgh I would always flyer myself. I would never I'd have flyers that would be employed through my agency off the curb, but like I always flyed, and I always thought comedians should flyer it. I never shied away from it, and I think sometimes people think, some comedians anyway, just because you've got a poster and stuff like that, like you still have to graft, totally.
And
I like, when the pandemic happened, obviously I was very depressed and down about it, and like everybody was, and you lose everything, and you're like, oh Jesus, how long is this going to last? And you realize this is, around September time, when I realized that actually this is going away, because I thought when the summer opened and we were back in the pubs and the bars, I'm thinking, we're coming out of it now. We're coming out of it. Yeah. So I decided to get a job. So I got a job at B&Q, and I'm doing 20, and because I'm not afraid to do the work. I like work. I like to physically. I was in work. I was at B&Q today from 9 o'clock till 3 on my feet all day.
Amazing.
What I mean? And I'm in there tomorrow again. So
good on you. In the real world, like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience?
Probably one a year.
Wow.
I don't go to a lot. I'll only go to probably comedians I wouldn't see. The last comedy gig I went to that wasn't me was I went to see Chris Kent record a special in Cork, and I was in Cork at the time, and I would only go if he gave me a free ticket.
Do you stay and watch the acts if you're on a bill?
Yeah, to a point. Yeah. Depends on the drive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like if it was a 2-hour drive and I was on first, I'd be a bit like, guys, I'm off.
Yeah, you got to get your priorities right.
Yeah. I'm off.
Just before we go, is there anything else you would like to say? Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah,
you got any online gigs coming up? Any podcasts or anything?
I've got some online gigs coming up in March and stuff, right? February stuff, but they're not. I don't have the details yet because they're all still being organised, you know.
Right.
So basically, yeah, like I put some videos up on TikTok at Andrew Ryan Comedy and Instagram at Andrew Ryan Comedy. So I've cut my clips and I put little clips, and I have some clips that do quite well, and my ISIS and Belfast clip did really well, and some clips, you know, you pick up quite a lot of followers and stuff like that. And I think it's just about saying, look, here I'm a comedian. When all this is over, you know, come buy a ticket, come see a show, go and see comedy. So I just kind of keep it ticking over until we can kind of get stuck in again. But yeah, just do that. Like, I don't you know, you're not going to be getting amazing content. I'm just going to tell you now, I'm not interested in hearing what you've had for your breakfast. I don't care about how you feel about why Donald Trump did something. I don't really care, right? All I'm interested in is that this is what I don't mind. I don't give a shit about most people's stuff online. Like, good for you, brilliant. But I'm kind of like, I'm not of the generation of that where it's like, hey guys, so today I got a Starbucks and you know it was really cold and I just feel violated. I'm like, you're annoying me. That's my show. You're annoying me.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so, I for one cannot wait to see that, and I cannot wait to see you live again soon, my friend.
Good. That's great. Thanks, Richard. And listen, you're comedy's #1 super fan. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's why, you know. So it's every comedian knows who you are. Don't worry. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, is Richard in tonight? Richard's always fucking in, mate. He's always in.
You're going to have a good night. Well, thank you so much for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you.
No worries, and thanks for having me, and good luck with it. And we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
All right.
Definitely.
See you later.
Soon. All the best, mate.
Take care. Bye bye.